have seen the torch of freedom pass from hand to yearning hand, and the vision of our fathers spread hope throughout this land, as the dream some fought and died for in my heart becomes my own. I will strive to keep her promise, America, my home. America, America, may God bless America, and freedom reign across America, my home. From the shorelines to the prairies, to the cities great and small, we have reaped the fruits of justice and liberty for all.
So a deep appreciation for the blessings of freedom that we know in this great and wonderful land of ours. I'm Dr. George Simon, welcoming you to another edition of Character Matters. This is the program where we talk about what I consider to be the defining issue of our time, the character crisis that we face and that affects so many areas of our lives, from our relationships to our communities, to, in fact, the very fabric of our social and political system, even our economic system. Matter of fact, all of our problems, every one of them, can be traced to this issue. Every single one of them. And it is amazing to me how diverted we are in our attention to the core problems that we face. We're looking everywhere for solutions, except where we need to. But this is one place where you'll hear at least one voice talking about what I have come to believe is the defining issue of our time, and have a conversation about it. And if you want to join the conversation, the number to call is 718-717-8296. That's 718-717-8296. I'm happy to take your call. Been blogging this week on another of the, quote, 10 commandments of character development on my blog at manipulative-people.com. That's www.manipulative-people.com. And I'm going to be talking about that a little bit later. And I'm going to be talking about what that second commandment is all about. The series of articles I've been posting on the blog are a preview of coming attractions, so to speak. They're a sneak peek into my upcoming book with Dr. Kathy Armistead on the 10 Commandments of Character. I've been urged to write this for some time, been meaning to do so. And after the success of our first book together, which was released only 2 months ago, but is enjoying a fairly nice ride already. How Did We End Up Here? My first book with Dr. Armistead. I finally got it together, so to speak, and we have been working on the 10 Commandments of Character. I really thought that it would be ready for release at the very least by the end of the spring or early part of the summer, and I'm afraid that that's not going to be the case. It looks like it's going to be a bit later than that because after initially feeling like we were ready to go to press, I realized that there are some things that I still needed to say and some things that I didn't say exactly as I needed to say them or wanted to say them. And so I'm still hung up in editing, and it couldn't come at a worse time, so to speak, given my schedule, because I'm doing so much traveling in the coming months. This next month, or this current month of May, is the heaviest travel month because I'll be doing 2 separate tours during the month. The whole first week of this month, all of this coming week, and then the third week of the month, I'll be on the road. Going first to the New York area, the New York City area, 2 venues on Long Island and one in Midtown Manhattan. And if you live in the area and you're wanting to attend one of these workshops, they're primarily designed for mental health professionals, but you do not have to be one to attend. Unfortunately, you will find, however, they are priced according to the going rate for mental health professional trainings for continuing education credits. So they're not my more affordable public workshops as far as price goes, but anyone is welcome, and you can find out more information about locations, times, etc. on the blog at manipulative-people.com. Just go to the page that talks about workshops and seminars, and you'll find the information there. Or you can go to the Cross Country Education website. Cross Country Educational Seminars is the company that sponsors my professional workshops. So you can go to the Cross Country Education website and you can get more information. And once again, if you want to join the conversation tonight, we're going to be talking about those 10 commandments of character development. Commandment number 2, particularly, we're going to be talking about what it takes not only to raise a child with a sense of what they need to develop in character the way we want them to develop, to emerge in young adulthood as responsible, caring, concerned, compassionate adults, but also what somebody would have to learn and master even in their later years if they're trying to turn their lives around. Perhaps they've come to that place in their life. I deal with this all the time. You know, the common lore among even professionals has been for the longest time that once a personality is set, it's pretty well fixed, and a person is not going to change their stripes. And even if they feel some exterior pressure to do so, they may change some outward behaviors, but that doesn't mean that they're really a different person. That's been the thinking. But I've been doing this long enough to know that there really are individuals, I know it's not all that common, but there are individuals who reach a certain point in their life, and by grace or by fortuitous circumstance, they have finally come to a place where they realize that they need to change. That it isn't just that they have to do certain things differently. They have to change their core beliefs. They have to change their attitudes. They have to change their way of thinking about things, their way of viewing the world and how to get along in it. And at those times, they need specialized help to help them with the process. It's a really specialized art to help a person grow and change in character. So I encourage you not to be of the mindset that changes can't happen. Now, the more serious the more serious a person's character disturbance, naturally, the less likely it is that they'll have even the motivation to change, and the harder it is for them to change should they acquire some motivation. So, there's no doubt about that. But I've dealt with literally hundreds of individuals who have come to a point in their life where they realize something's got to give. And there are methods. There are ways to help these folks, coach them through the process of being better persons. It can happen. And that's one of the things that I'm going to be doing some training about over the coming weeks with professionals, helping to carry that message, helping to empower professionals across the country to do the work that is so badly needed in our character-impaired age. So if you want to familiarize yourself with my work, I invite you to get a hold of my books, In Sheep's Clothing, Understanding and Dealing with Manipulative People, the international bestseller and the definitive handbook of understanding covertly aggressive, manipulative character types. And then my book, Character Disturbance, The Phenomenon of Our Age, the equally best-selling book on the wide range of disturbed characters out there and how they manage to make your life miserable and what you can do about it and what you need to really know to empower yourself and avoid similar pitfalls in the future, and especially what to look for if you're trying to get help. And then my book with Kathy Armistead, How Did We End Up Here? An excellent read for those who either come to the end of their ropes in a relationship or are in the midst of a relationship that is turning out to be toxic, and you're scratching your head and wondering how this happened and needing to figure it out because you don't really want it to happen again. And maybe you're even scratching your head and wondering how it happened that we ended up where we are as a society with the kinds of problems that we have these days and the monumental challenges we face ahead. Looking at the first generation in most of our lifetime that rightfully cannot expect to do better than their parents. This is the American dream crushed. And it should be cause for great alarm. But unfortunately, I think we've all become a bit too desensitized and a bit despondent, more than a bit despondent. We've come to believe that nothing will change. And, in this political season, we have two candidates on both sides of the fence, both sides of the political spectrum, both on the extreme side. Two candidates offering to change a broken system, a system that's become truly dysfunctional and not representative. And they couldn't be further apart. And a lot of people are scared. And there are all kinds of shenanigans going on to help ensure that the establishment stays in power. It's a pretty scary time, folks, I gotta say. And as you listen each week to the opening and closing theme song, a song my wife and I wrote together. She is the collaborator on the words. I'm the composer of the music. A song formerly titled Anthem for the Millennium. We wrote it at the turn of the new millennium. Meant to be a long-lived anthem for the new millennium. but it ended up becoming kind of a rallying song after the 9/11 attacks, and that's when it became popular. And it's more affectionately known by its subtitle, America, My Home. But its premise is this, and its message is this, that our greatness as a country has never resided in our in our economic clout or our military might, both of which are substantial, no doubt. We're an economic powerhouse, and we're the world's only remaining superpower, although that's not going to be for very much longer. But that's not where our greatness has ever really resided during those periods of time when we have been great. And there have been periods of time, I've mentioned this before, where we haven't. Plenty of times when we rightfully needed to hold ourselves in some degree of shame. But those periods of greatness are characterized by the character of our people. That's where our greatness has always resided, in the character of our people, people of good character who honor, treasure, embrace, and then live out our best traditions and ideals. That's what makes the country great. When we, as people within it, are functional, when we're not thieving from one another, when we're not cheating one another, when we're not wantonly injuring one another, that's when we're great. That's when we're strong. And so that's the message that I try to inspire with the song. You have to listen to it carefully. Freedom and character are inextricably bound to one another. The premise is simple. You give people of good character maximum free rein, freedom from unnecessary intrusion, governmental intrusion, and especially freedom from over-regulation. You don't micromanage decent people's lives. You leave them alone. And if you do, they will flourish, they will prosper, they will create opportunities, and they will build and do great and wonderful things. And that's what builds great nations. But it's all predicated on the character issue. So if we don't get a handle on our problem, all the political and social ills that we're suffering now will get nothing but worse. And I'm afraid that it's going to have to get worse before it gets better. I really am. Because there are people willing to capitalize on some of our problems. I'll give you a really good example. I don't want to get too political in this program because I do want to get to this second commandment that I want to talk about tonight. But I'll just give you an example of how people can demagogue an issue and capitalize on a genuine problem, an issue. I was watching the protests, understandable protests, in California against the manner in which one of the candidates, Donald Trump, wants to approach the immigration issue. Now, I know there are a lot of tender feelings on this issue. And the issue is not so much immigration itself. This is a country of immigrants. You know, the folks that were here to start with, unfortunately, got shoved aside. Everyone else here is from someplace else. So that's not really been the issue. The issue is how to go about that process. what the laws and regulations are going to be and how those laws and regulations will be respected. But nonetheless, the issue is being demagogued. But one of the things I saw that was disturbing in these protests is I saw flags being waved of another country and signs being held high and proudly, championing that other country from people who had immigrated here. I have to say, this was disturbing to me. I think everyone has a perfect right to protest not only imperfect and harmful policy, but to protest individuals who have heartless and perhaps misguided solutions to the problem. I think people have a perfect right to do that. But I don't think you successfully make the case, and I don't think you successfully engender a welcoming attitude in a host new country that purportedly you came to for opportunity by claiming allegiance to and championing the place you came from. It's just unimaginable to me. My grandparents were immigrants. They fled incredible persecution, as well as economic deprivation. They were so glad to be here, they literally, I saw this with my own eyes, kissed the ground. It's a gesture that many folks believe in, or at least some folks used to believe in. And it wouldn't be a stretch to say they literally worshiped the ground that they walked on, because they were free from the kinds of oppression that they had suffered. And they couldn't even imagine that they were in a place where they could be so free and not have to worry. And that all they had to do was work hard. That's all they had to do was work hard. Couldn't speak the language very well. Didn't know how anything worked. Didn't know the culture. Had to assimilate. And it was tough. But all they had to do was work hard. And everything else followed. So they literally worshiped this place. Now, I couldn't even imagine. I couldn't imagine. Yes, they were proud of their heritage and their traditions, but I couldn't imagine, given what they had come from and what they had fled and how glad they were to be here, I couldn't imagine anybody who had some bone of contention for some issues with this place rallying around a cry for greatness for their former homeland, waving flags and putting up signs. It's unfathomable to me. And it speaks to an issue that I want to talk about tonight, which has to do with gratitude. Here is the second commandment of sound character development. As history has taught me, my history with people of disturbed character over the years, here's what my experience has taught me, is the second command of sound character development, and that is to be mindful that we are not entitled to anything that this very life that we enjoy is an unearned gift. Even if you're an atheist, you would have to see it as a freak accident of nature. Nobody earned this existence. It was handed to us by the cosmos, if you will. It is, in every respect, an unearned gift. It's undeniable. So we're not entitled. But because we have this gift, we have a moral imperative to be mindful of it and to cultivate a heart full of gratitude and humility. And then in that gratitude, strive to be individuals worthy of respect. Strive to act in a manner that deserves that respect. How important that is. How absolutely crucial that is to our character development. Unfortunately, we live in an age of unprecedented entitlement. There is a huge disconnect between the average person and all of the fortunate things, all of the blessings, all the fortuitous circumstances, all the many comforts, creature comforts, all of the things that we enjoy. There's an inherent disconnect. We don't have mindfulness about the price paid for all of those things. We don't have mindfulness about the interconnectedness of things. We take so many things for granted. When I was growing up, many of my friends and I, we were afraid to go outdoors in the summertime when it wasn't quite warm enough for a swim, because the thought was that would make you more vulnerable to contracting polio. And we were filled with images of young people who had the unfortunate or the misfortune of having to spend their lives in an iron lung, or a good portion of their lives. And then came along a gentleman by the name of Jonas Salk, a researcher who developed a vaccine. He developed a vaccine that he could have made millions, if not billions, on. And rid the world, eventually, of the scourge of polio. Dedicated people doing wonderful, mindful things with their gifts and talents. That's what gave us a lot of what we enjoy. But there's a disconnect. There's a disconnect of appreciation. And there are many who feel not a part of this enterprise. They feel disenfranchised. And they're angry about it. And the ways that they have chosen to express their frustration are in themselves extremely problematic, and they're reflective of bad character. Yes, I said it, bad character. It's not the level of income. We've had poverty for many, 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 many centuries. Many people throughout history have been poor. Poverty in itself has never been and never will be an excuse for violent or other forms of antisocial behavior. There are literally millions, truly millions of people in the world who enjoy far, far, far less. Who are happier and who function more adaptively than some of our so-called disadvantaged individuals. It's a matter of attitude. And when there are so many things in your immediate environment that unfortunately cultivate a negative, hostile attitude, it can shape you into a pretty impaired and underdeveloped character. But that is the problem. That is the problem. It's not the money. And it's not just the environment. It's not just the environment. Because there are plenty of individuals, plenty, we don't hear about them. There are plenty of individuals who come out of unbelievably hostile, traumatic, abusive situations and still remarkably forge a character of real integrity. I'm always amazed at how this happens. Early in my career, when I was doing a lot of pro bono and near pro bono work in some disadvantaged areas, I saw this many times. I remarked to myself constantly, how is it that anybody could come out of some of these horrendous environments as decently as they did? So it's not just environment. How we're predisposed and the way especially we tend to look at things makes a real difference. So it's a combination of factors, all of which influence our character development. And in this age of unprecedented entitlement, it's hard for anyone to feel grateful about anything. Instead, we have a lot of folks feeling pretty demanding, pretty entitled, pretty spoiled. And it's taking its toll. It's taking its toll. Greed has gotten completely out of hand. And greed is a character trait. Make no mistake. I heard an analyst, a business analyst, talking about why the concentration of wealth in fewer and fewer hands is happening in big business. And he broke down the analysis quite simply. There's no money to be made in secure investments. You can't put your money in the bank and make anywhere near enough interest to live. So investors of any type are looking for opportunities to make money, to make gains. And how that generally happens, especially in a really weak economy, where there's not really growth going on and there's no real enterprise going on. The way to do that is to pump up the value of a company's stock because it's gobbling up other entities and getting bigger, fatter, and then trimming costs and staff so it becomes more profitable and pays higher dividends, making its stock more valuable. And this is what's driving it all. This unprecedented greed. And it's literally killing us. And you can't legislate that away. There's not a program to solve this. So the second commandment is simple. Be mindful. Be mindful of what we have. Remember, we're not entitled to anything. Not a single breath that we draw. This very life we enjoy is an unearned gift. We must strive to be both humble and grateful. And let that motivate us. Let that motivate us to make a meaningful contribution that will earn the respect of our fellow men, to make of ourselves the kind of individuals that can and will make a meaningful contribution. That's the second commandment. It's amazing to me how many people I have encountered over the years who haven't mastered that lesson, even in midlife. They might be 50-some, even 60-some, still not gotten it, so to speak. And it takes its toll in just about every aspect of life, especially married life, community life. You know, it all starts there anyway. It all starts with the most basic unit. One person to another. I don't know if you agree or disagree. I don't know if you have a comment that you want to make about that, or if you just have a question you want to ask or a story you want to share. But in any case, if you want to join the conversation, you're welcome to. Just give us a call at 718-717-8296. That's 717-8296, area code 718. I'm happy to take your call. Well, I have to tell you, I'm riding a little bit of a high because last night I went to see Paul McCartney in concert along with my lovely wife. We're in that generation, we grew up with that music of the Beatles and then Wings and all of his other incarnations. And I got to tell you, it's rare that you will go to a concert. This was the one-on-one tour. It's rare that you will go to a concert and see a musician come out on stage and play song after song without a break, one right after the other, each one better than the last, for 3+ solid hours without a break. Unbelievable. I was feeling exhausted for Sir Paul. But not only was the program touching and entertaining, but so was Sir Paul. He titled the tour One-on-One, and he was extraordinarily personable, relating stories and giving information that only he would be in possession of, being very real and giving context to a lot of things. And one of the things he gave context to that I didn't know earlier and that I found extremely interesting was this story behind one of my favorite pieces off the White Album called Blackbird. That song sticks in my mind for a number of reasons. One, because it has such a beautiful introduction, beautiful guitar introduction, pretty opening, and very distinctive. I mean, you hear it and you know immediately what the song is. But I'm based here in Little Rock, Arkansas. And Little Rock has a history of some difficult racial relations dating back to the segregation eras. And we also have the famous standoff at the Little Rock Central High School, where some black students back in the 60s tried to integrate the school. And they became eventually known as the Little Rock Nine, forced a standoff between the governor here in the state and federal troops who were sent in to ensure integration by force if necessary. And interestingly enough, the whole scenario was noticed by these lads from Liverpool, and they were musing about the social strife going on here and how difficult it must have been for young black children to feel so socially ostracized, and how they must have been yearning to be free, truly free. And that was the inspiration for the song Blackbird. And so here comes Sir Paul to Little Rock last night and tells the story, and I had no idea. And it was very moving. And it turns out that he also was able to meet two of the surviving members of the Little Rock Nine, adult individuals who, as children, faced vile comments and jeers and taunting from the crowd as they tried to do the unspeakable thing of just going to school. And it was just a really touching moment. and it was particularly touching to hear the song again. And they had a backdrop, a projector showing some blackbirds in flight. It was really a really moving moment. But that's a bit of history that I didn't realize, and so that, among other things, has got me still riding a high. I have to say, my ears have not recovered. Uh, I took my hearing aids out. In the crowd, I almost lost one um, because it was loud enough that I was nearly deaf coming out of the place, even without having worn my hearing aids. So I'm still kind of recovering from that. But it was well worth the price of admissions. I'll tell you what wasn't worth. I'm going to give a word to the wise here. If any of you have a chance to go to this tour and you get one of these advance ticket sales offers from one of the credit card companies, warning you that it's likely to be a sellout, and so jump quick on the advance sales. Think twice. I did this and sprung pretty big for some tickets that I knew were, not the best floor tickets, but they were supposed to be in at least a decent area, and paid a premium price to get them early, only to find out that folks who had bought their tickets much later and at a much reduced price got much better seating. So, uh, once again, character is the culprit. Greed is the culprit, but I'm a little bit wiser now, and I won't make that mistake again. And just for the benefit of you who may be listening, who may be considering doing the same thing, I urge you to be a little cautious. I don't think you have to jump right away on the advance tickets to the tour, but who knows? I'm not really here to give that kind of advice. I just wanted to share the experience. But it was a wonderful concert. If you get a chance to see it, I would do so. Well, it seems like it's going to be an evening without phone conversation. That's quite all right. I still have some things that we can talk about. But if you do want to join the conversation, if you have a question you want to ask me, if you have a comment you want to make about any of the articles on my manipulative-people.com blog, or the other blog I write for at counselingresource.com. That's counseling resource with two L's in the counseling.com. I write for both of those blogs. Or if you have a question on any of the books, or the upcoming workshops or anything like that. Or maybe you just have a story you want to share, or something of interest you want to share with the audience. Give us a call at 718-717-8296. That's 718-717-8296. Well, I'm getting all excited about the upcoming tour here in New York this week. I depart Tuesday morning, be traveling most of the day, should arrive in Long Island Tuesday night for my first workshop in the Smithtown area. On Wednesday, got a good crowd there, and a pretty packed house there. And then I move on from there to the Carle Place area, and I'll be there on Thursday. And then Friday, I'll be right in the heart of Midtown, down in Times Square area. And as I mentioned, you can get more information on the workshops by going to my manipulative-people.com website and clicking on the page on the workshops, seminars, and webinars page. There's an information guide there as to all the dates and times and places for the workshops. And then you can also go, if you wish, to the Cross Country Education website They're the sponsoring entity for my workshops. And once again, let me mention, although all are welcome, these are workshops that are primarily tailored to mental health professionals. I'll be training professionals, therapists, folks who deal with disturbed characters of one time or another. I'll be training them in how to approach the problem of a character disturbance and what to do about it. I'll be encouraging them to shed some of their old traditional notions and to adopt a whole new way of looking at things in the hopes that they will empower themselves to empower other people, whether they are individuals who are in a relationship with a character disturbed person and they're kind of pulling their hair out because they're feeling gaslighted, they're feeling manipulated, they're feeling bamboozled emotionally or otherwise abused, and they don't know what to do. Or perhaps it's even an individual who knows they've got some character issues and it's come to the point in their life where they really want to consider doing some things differently, and they just basically don't know how to go about changing, and they're looking for the right kind of guidance. So I'm out there carrying the message to mental health professionals about what they need to do to intervene in these kinds of cases and how they need to approach the problem. And I'll have my books, In Sheep's Clothing and Character Disturbance and How Did We End Up Here and the Judas Syndrome. I'll have all four of them with me there, and I'll be talking up the upcoming book with Dr. Armistead, The 10 Commandments of Character, and giving some preview into those things during my workshops there. So if you're in the area, if you are in the or near the area within traveling distance of either Smithtown area of Long Island or the Carle Place area of Long Island or Times Square area of New York City next week, go to the website at manipulative-people.com or the Cross Country Education website, get the information. I'd be very happy to see you there. I have already gotten several emails this week from folks who I had 2 inquiries this week from individuals who, interestingly enough, had gone to the blog site and read the articles and then wanted to know if I were speaking in their area anytime soon, and both were from the New York City area. So I said, well, as a matter of fact, I'm going to be there in just a few days. And then another interesting thing happened. As you know, this is the season that that we're coming into, that I affectionately refer to as the patriotic season. It begins with Memorial Day and goes through Flag Day, Independence Day, and then Labor Day and Veterans Day. And this is when I get a lot of requests for the song that you hear that opens and closes this program, America My Home. And it just turns out that one of the performances of this piece will be at a location that I will be at just the week before. As a matter of fact, the week before they'll be rehearsing. And so I got an invitation to maybe come and listen if I were in the area. But as it turns out, I have to leave the evening before this rehearsal, so I can't do that. But it is just really strange how synchronicity works, folks. There really is such a thing as synchronicity. I'm going to be right in that area, helping to carry the message, and I'm just barely going to miss being able to connect with some folks who have heard and responded to the message, and that's just beautiful. There's nothing more edifying. I have had several occasions where I've been invited and been able to. My wife also has been able to do this. Matter of fact, we were privileged on one occasion to attend a service at one of these mega churches where they had a full orchestra and choir and soloist and choral backup perform our anthem, and it was extremely moving. And then another time where we visited a university whose choral groups used the piece in a patriotic tribute, and there were literally hundreds of students on stage, all singing in harmony to orchestral accompaniment. It was really moving. There's something special about putting something into the world and then having people give it back to you. It makes you realize. It makes you realize this whole point of this second commandment. Go to the blog and read the article. I encourage you to at manipulative-people.com. Makes you realize the interconnected nature of things, that we're all connected, that we can't not affect one another, and that it's incumbent upon us to be all that we can be, to honor the gift giver, and to give back. That's what it's all about. This life we enjoy is an unearned gift. Gratitude begets all kinds of integrity of character. And gratitude, as I say in one of my blog posts, is a matter of attitude. We have to be mindful of this gift. We have to be in humble reverence of it and of the gift giver, even if we're atheistic and think we are nothing but the most amazing product of stardust, which in a cosmological sense we are. This is an amazing, unearned, and awe-inspiring gift. And it's our obligation, whether we're mindful of it or not, to recognize our part and to do our part. It's a state of mind and a way of being that recognizes our interdependence and our connectedness. We can't not affect one another. We're going to affect one another in some way. So we might just as well do that positively. That's what builds character. And freedom depends on it. That's what the song that's going to carry us out tries to carry the message of. That's what makes the whole thing work. When you let people of good character have maximum freedom from government intrusion, from over-regulation, when you don't micromanage their lives, they innovate and do great things, build great things. Remember that. And if you have a mind to, tune in again next week for another edition of Character Matters. For those of you in New York, I may see you next week. Hope to. And hope to see you back here again next week at the same time on Character Matters on UCY.tv. Take care. I'm Dr. George Simon. Have a good evening. I'll see you next week.